Hey guys, and welcome to another episode of Synth vs. Synth. The Mog Sub 37 was released in 2014, and I was one of the first in line to pick one up. It's been my go-to mono synth for leads and basses ever since. I even dubbed it my favorite synth of all time. In 2019, the Moog Grandmother stepped into the scene with more inputs and outputs on a Moog synth in this form factor than we'd ever seen. Alongside the Mother 32, this seemed to be an extremely viable way for the player to not just have their cake, but eat it too. Before I go any further, I'd like to say that I have a blind comparison video comparing both of these, and this will give you the help you may need to check out the filter sound without being biased. Short backstory, when I purchased my Sub 37 in 2014, I was coming from a long history of Moog monosynths, starting with the Little Phatty, then the Slim Phatty, and finally purchasing the Moog Minitaur, all which have since come and gone from my studio in relatively quick fashion. I give this history so you understand my perspective while I'm comparing. So off the rip, the number one difference that most people will probably look to when picking one over the other is the built-in spring reverb on the Grandmother. They'll crank it to the highest setting and go, yo, this is sick. They'll see the Sub 37 doesn't have any of these time-based effects and pass, especially at the price. So that said, an instrument like a synthesizer is the sum of its parts, not just a single one. So while even I love the spring reverb in the Grandmother, keep in mind that you're often working in the box, and well, you'll likely want to turn the spring reverb on the Grandmother off in favor of using a plugin to match the space for the other instruments in your composition. Though on the flip side, you'll also notice that the dual mode on the Sub 37 stands out and makes an immediate impression. With the touch of a button, you can get great shells for chords, add a bass, and you've got an amazing harmony. So what they sound like, right? Okay, here we go. Someone will eventually ask in the comment section, which one sounds better? Look, none of us share the same set of eardrums, so the subjective nature of asking someone else is kind of foolish, but here I'll go. I'll 100% express the difference in sound to my ears. The Moog Sub 37 has a very tough sound. It's not pulling any punches. It's a thick boy and it knows it. It wants to take all the space, while the Moog Grandmother is sweet. It's unpredictable, organic, if I can use that word. It can be many different things, so like a Grandmother, it can be sweet and stern all at the same time. Remember though that reliability, portability, feature sets, stability, all of these are equally as important to sound. So how about them keys, right? Well, there is absolutely a difference in the key beds. So while this may be a topic that most people do not want me to spend much time on, for the real players out there, I want you to know that the original Sub 37 key bed has a much quicker bounce back and synth action, while the grandmother is a hair slower. Now, it is newer, but I want to say that the subsequent 37 probably has a different key bed, but I thought that I should point out the difference just in case. So let's get this out of the way. The Sub 37 does not interface with Eurorack in the immediate way that the grandmother does. So if that's really what you want, the grandmother wins. Forget all I'm saying after this. So what's good with the modulation and filters for each? Well, the modulation capabilities of the grandmother really stand out because of all the inputs and outputs that you see. But realize that the Sub 37 is very capable because of the 2 modulation slots. These are capable of affecting so much. So since we're talking about these standard issue, no crazy inputs and outputs, the Sub 37 actually is amazing at getting super wild sounds. So don't look over it just because you see all of the wires and inputs and outputs. Realize though that the filters are different on each, and as I said before, check out my video on that for more. In summary, the grandmother has a low pass and high pass filters, where the Sub 37 has different slopes of low pass, so 6, 12, 18, and 24 dB. I'd like to point out that early runs of the Sub 37 had a filter pot problem. This is actually true for my version as well, but I'm not doing any crazy filter sweeps, so yeah, it's never been an issue, but it is there. This has been rectified in the subsequent 37, so you're good if you're getting that. Also, you have the multi-drive in the Sub 37, and its saturation, I really like it. If you're looking for something like that, I'd say go for the Sub 37. It really gives you a powerful saturated sound. The wrap up. So in the end, I've owned the Sub 37 for over 5 years, and I've loved every minute of it. From the firmware updates, adding the sequencing capabilities, thank you Amos, to honestly the most predictable sound, I've loved the Sub 37 on the road and in the studio equally. And in a piece of gear, I don't think that's always an easy thing to accomplish. So this whole synth versus synth ends up being an exercise of give and take. So which one would I choose? Well, given that the subsequent is out now and it's about double the price of a grandmother, it kind of makes it tough. But honestly, even after a year with the grandmother, I still come back to the Sub 37 and think, how come it was so easy for me to move from the Little Phatty to the Sub 37? Well, the Little Phatty had lots of shortcomings that were present in different situations, like unstable tunings and different temperatures. Even when people claimed that the Sub 37 sound wasn't as organic, I said, well, will it keep me in tune? Okay, I'm getting one. Look guys, I definitely thought I'd have found a better, more impressive synth with more Eurorack interfacing capabilities, exactly what I wanted. But instead of a main synth, the grandmother is the ultimate companion piece to my Eurorack setup. So yo, it's not my go-to. It's a different member of my musical family altogether. Never overlook what you have just because another shiny object comes your way. This grandmother is a masterpiece of modulation, a melodic monster, and generally a marvelous monosynth, but it cannot be my main. Anyways, remember to like, subscribe, follow me on Instagram. Thank you again for watching, guys, and I'll see you in the next one. In 2019, the Moog grandmother slapped on all which have since successor the subsequent sub the Moog its successor the subsequent sub